Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a One Sheet Wonder card, but this one is a One Sheet Wonder for a 5x7 card. So I'll be taking 6x6 paper and I'll make a 5x7 card. I did show an alternate way if you don't want to make two cards, or if you don't like the amount of white space in this sketch, you could combine the elements for a slightly different look, but I'm going to be making this sketch today. This is my preference. I actually like white space, and I know it's not for everyone. Sometimes my One Sheet Wonders can be a little sparse, but again, that's just a personal style. So I'm going to use One Sheet Wonder 5x7 template number 3 and sketch B. I need to cut my paper starting at 6x6. I am using a bunch of supplies from MFT, in part because I want to show you a new MFT stamp set and a little resource I made to go with it, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But to get started, 6x6 paper, I'm going to cut it to 1 3/4 by 6, so that is just the length of the paper. Do that again, because this will make 2 cards if you make sketch B, and it makes 1 card if you make sketch 1. And then this is 2.5 that's left, although as you can see it's actually just a slight bit above 2.5. This is pretty common, so not all 6x6 papers are perfectly 6x6, and that might be something. If you feel like your measurements seem a little off, it might just be that the paper started at a very slightly different dimension, and it's things like not even 1/8 of an inch, but you might notice it when you go to mat your layers. And that's why I personally prefer a 1/4 inch mat, and that's what I'm gonna use today, because I feel like it's a little bit more forgiving if your measurements aren't exactly right. Like if you're not the kind of person who wants to be particularly precise, maybe your trimmer isn't particularly precise, but yeah, I personally like that 1/4 inch. Okay, so now I need a 6 1/4 inch mat by 2 inch. And I am using this random piece of navy paper, navy cardstock that I found in my collection. And it made me think, I use a lot of Recollections cardstock, but I don't think they have 110-pound navy available. And the thing with Recollections is the 110 pounds, they all come in these packs of colors, so you can get a solid pack of craft or white and black, I think. But then any of the colors, you have to get a range. So maybe you have to get the primary colors, although there's orange in that pack. I don't know, there's this pack that has red, green, blue, orange, and they're very bright. And my other measurement is 3 1/4 by 2 3/4. But this is a template PDF on the blog. You can just print this out. You don't have to care what measurements I'm saying. But anyway, because you have to buy them in packs like that, if you just want a bunch of one color, it's not very realistic. So I really like navy. Just kind of in a kick with it lately. I really like teal too, but I haven't been able to find a teal at Michael's that I like. But do you have a favorite navy cardstock, or do you just have a favorite company you like to get cardstock from? I am thinking I will probably pick some up at MFT, my favorite things, because I was very lucky to win a gift certificate to MFT recently. So I think I'm gonna put some of that money towards just a couple colors that are hard to find otherwise of cardstock. But if you have any other ideas, if you have a favorite MFT product, feel free to let me know, and I'll check it out, because I wasn't quite sure. I mean, it's hard. MFT is a million cute stamps. It's not like I can't find anything I like. I'm trying to think of what is the best use of a gift card, because I don't know, but I have a tendency to buy more stamps than I can color. I don't know if anyone else is in that boat. We crafters, no, we don't hoard craft supplies, do we? We would never. Okay, so I have all my different pieces and my cardstock mats cut, and then I'm using my ATG. I love my ATG. I find if I buy the refills at a place like Tape Jungle, it is very economical, but I know some people have trouble with it. If that's you, if you have trouble with your ATG, I have a video on my channel where I try to do my best to explain the tips and tricks that I have acquired over the years that help me to be successful with my ATG. I still have times where it doesn't lay its adhesive down perfectly or whatever, but compared to a lot of the other adhesives I've tried, I'm very happy. If you're like a runner, a lot of those, they're like maybe refillable, and even if they are, it's a lot more plastic, I find, in other refills than in the ATG refills. So, I don't know, it's just a personal thing, but if you have any of those troubles. Also, and I've said this once before, and it's not universal, but I have seen some like off-brand refills on Amazon for ATG, and I ordered one and was not successful with it. And they do make you order like a couple of rolls. So I can recommend Tape Jungle. I have ordered from there a number of times. They have always been good refills, but I don't have another source that I know of as like super cheap and reliable on them. So maybe that one will work for you. Okay, 5x7. I matted them all, but I'm only gonna make one card today, mostly because I only have one 5x7 base pre-cut. I just cut one before starting to record this video, and I cut it wrong. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't be trying to record a video if I can't even just cut a 7x10 and fold it in half. See, measurements. That's why I make these templates, because it tells me exactly what to cut. I only have to do the math one time, although sometimes I even get it wrong then, but I don't have to think about it the next time. I'm going to place this such that it has an even border on all three sides, or like as even as my eyes see. I'm not going to measure it exactly. And then this panel is going to overlap it slightly, but then hang off. And so I want to put a piece of cardstock scrap behind this. Not going to use my navy cardstock just because like I literally have one piece of it, but I'll pull something out of my scrap drawer. I have Alex units in my craft room, which I have done some. I haven't done a craft room tour in a while, but I have shown some pictures and videos of my craft room, and I did like a desk tour. But yeah, I keep a whole, I have those like smaller Alex units that don't have the wheels, and I have one of the smaller drawers of them that I just keep for scraps. So it is super messy and not very pretty or anything, but like I'm not the kind of person who is good at organizing scraps and like color code them and all that. I can't get into that. I do like to organize things in my craft room, but more just in terms of how it will help me to function, not just to like look pretty, because I like clothes storage anyway. So my shameful giant mess of scraps is in a drawer that I just closed, so you won't even know that that's what it looks like. Okay. Oops, I forgot to add some adhesive to that side as well. If you're very careful, you can lift up your ATG. That's one of the reasons I do like it. It does, once it's stuck, but if you work quickly, sometimes you can still peel it up, and if you peel carefully. But if I like really burnish it down and then I try to pull it up, it will tear the paper, but yeah. Anyway, okay. So that's the basic design of the One Sheet Wonder. And now I'm gonna finish off the card and share some more things with you. I picked out the Bertie Brown MFT Beast Friends stamp set. It is currently still available. I know Bertie Brown does not design for them anymore, but they're doing some like vault releases so you can get some of the older stuff. But this is one you can. And I'm gonna color that little guy. Then I also have, this is a new stamp set from their latest November release. And it is the Bertie Brown fonts and sentiment set, but Spanish sentiments. And they also have French sentiments. I don't speak Spanish or French, but organizations that I donate my cards to do ask for cards in other languages. And so I would like to be able to provide that for them and reach more people. They serve either globally or they serve communities that speak other languages even within the US. And Spanish is one that they definitely need cards for. So I have some other Spanish products. I've shared Spanish videos on my channel before, and you may know already, but I have Spanish jokes you can download on my blog. So you go to my website and you can print off some jokes that are in Spanish. And again, I don't speak Spanish, but they have been proofread by like 3 different Spanish speakers. So there should not be any errors, and you don't need to speak Spanish in order to then make these cards and distribute them with those jokes inside. And you are maybe interested in donating cards yourself. So I have tried to create some resources that will help you to do that, because I enjoy doing that with my card making. And so on my blog, you find those jokes. They're in the jokes in Spanish, but also places to donate your cards, and plenty of jokes in English as well. That's where I had started. But on this note, I don't have any French jokes yet. I don't know any fluent French speakers who could help me out with that. And so it is something that I would be interested in helping facilitate in terms of, like, you know, trying to gather them, hosting them on my site, promoting them, etc. But I would need someone who speaks French to help me out. So if you speak French, or you know someone who does, you might be able to help me out or give me an idea of whether this would make sense. Like, what could we put inside these cards for kids that speak French? So that's a little plug there. With my coloring, I'm going to do some really simple stuff. I'm going to choose to put shadows on either side of his scarf so that he in general has a little rounded effect. And then I'm just going to decide to put the shadows at the top of the scarf here. And then here, this top layer of the scarf will cast a shadow on this bottom layer of the scarf. And so the shadows will be all along this side here. Hopefully you can see where I'm pointing with the marker. And I'm working on the camera settings to figure out how to make it zoom in and out less as I move my hands around the scene. I do like that this new camera gives you a pretty clear picture. You can see detail a little bit better, but the auto zoom is maybe not ideal for me. I'm not going to color this whole thing live. I'll like take a pause again, as I did to zoom in and finish the coloring, but I did decide to start with a royal blue color for his scarf, because the pattern paper that I picked, which is from the MFT Happy Trails, has a more royal blue, and then I'll mix in a more navy blue for the cup, I think, which is really the only 2 opportunities for color here. I chose some really light browns to color in the fur. I am going to want to add some look of fur texture for sure, because as you can see from the artist drawn lines, she has indicated that he is furry. So I want to be able to add that in my coloring as well. So that's why I'm going to do these flicks in the darkest color here. And I'm going to have them coming from the center, because I mean, I actually don't have like a particularly good reason. It's just that that's what makes sense to me. And it's going to be the easiest way to add in flicks is from the center. If I was to kind of come from these points and try to do the flicks, I'm much more likely to get things out of the lines. And I can be a bit more controlled once I'm not adding my shadow color. But yeah, I'm not a trained artist. I think that's pretty clear for you guys. Oh, I even missed part of the scarf. I'll have to go back in and add that. But yeah, so then on his belly, I'm like, where do I want to add I could maybe make the fur come more from the shadows and the fur come more from the sides here, because there's lots of area to flick into. So that's why I'm just kind of changing it up there instead of doing the center. But also because, you know, generally, and you look on animals, not that he's a pretend animal, but the center of the belly tends to be pretty light, so we'll just kind of keep that in mind and add our flicks from there. Now, the pads of his feet probably wouldn't have fur on them, and they would probably match this part of his face and the ears, which I haven't entirely settled on what color I want to do yet, so I'm going to avoid his feet for now. Just in case you thought I forgot, which would be very possible that I just forgot them, because I obviously just forgot a piece of that scarf. But and I'm just making really light flicking motions, and I'm going to do it again here with the E4-1, but then when I move to the E4-0, I'm going to do less flicking and more just trying to get everything covered up at that point, because I'll still have this fur texture, and I can come back with the darker colors and add more fur texture if I lose it when I put in that lightest color. So I want him to read as, like, I didn't want him to be very dark. I kind of want him to be like a white, but obviously this is quite brown, although he will look more white later and with some context. However, I didn't want to do grays. I like the warmer tone for him. You could do warm grays, but even still, warm grays are not quite, I don't know, I just feel this feels a little bit more natural, but still reads as a very light colored animal. Okay, so I want to be careful about adding too much color to the centers. I'm doing much bigger flicks, as you can see now, and I'm not even, it's a little bit less leg flicks and more of just a traditional drag of the marker to make sure I fill in space. But this E40 marker is maybe a bit darker than I was anticipating, and I don't want him to read as one color. I don't want him to lose all of his texture. Here at the top, and I'm going to come into these points, and I hope that I'm trying to be conscious of what you guys can see and keeping my hand out of the way as much as possible. But I'm trying to come into these points and drag my marker out from them, which is the opposite of the motion that I've been doing since the beginning, where I was flicking from the inside out. Now I'm dragging from the outside in, and less flicking, more dragging. And that is just so that, again, the area is more filled. Because if I were to start here at the inside and pull out, just the way that I color, I know I would have to lay more ink on, and it would be less accurate. Ooh, sorry, I dropped all those, but hopefully you guys have seen the colors by now. I would lose more of the texture that I want to keep, and I would probably have to go over it more times, and it would get darker. So it is a little bit just adapting to what I know I do, and some people like to flick like upwards. Like that feels really comfortable for them. Some people like to flick downwards, and that feels more comfortable and more natural to get like a flick that they like better. Experiment with what you like. Turn your page. I'm not turning it too much, mostly for your benefit, but when I do color off camera, I am much more like, turning the page every which way to really get in the details there. I really want to emphasize the fur on top here. I'm not as much worried about it here, but I think if I do it on the head, that would be a great spot to add the detail. I know you hear a lot of artists say, like, you don't need to add detail everywhere. You just need to add like one spot of detail, and then that'll like convince the viewer that you know what you're doing. So that's going to be my focus area in terms of making sure that it looks like he has that textured hair look. Okay, so I finished up coloring the Yeti and I cut him out. I did fussy cut him, like good old-fashioned pair of scissors, but there's coordinating dies. I find a lot of my stamp sets I don't use enough to justify the dies, which means I probably don't use them enough to justify the stamp sets in the first place, but I also have a ScanNCut machine, and that's what I usually would use. But when I'm just cutting out a single image, it's almost faster to just trim it with my scissors than it would be to get out the mat and all that. So anyway, if it looks a little less finished, the dies give you a really beautiful, like, even white border. I don't, not when I fussy cut. I picked out an MFT sentiment strip that has this little bit of stitching here on the edges, and I want a sentiment from this stamp set. Now, I mentioned before, you can make these Spanish cards even if you don't speak Spanish, because I have those jokes for you to add. But you might be thinking, okay, if I purchase this stamp set, what do these all mean? You could look it up and, you know, go to Google Translate, pop them in, put it on a sticky note, or I did it for you. I put all of the translations from this particular Spanish stamp set, and a lot of stamp sets will have similar ones because the sayings will be the same. But anyway, so you can get this as a PDF, and I'm going to do the French one as well. But it's just going to be a simple sheet printed on some copy paper, and you should be able to slip it right behind your whatever way you store your clear stamps. It should be able to fit because it should be exactly the size or very close to the size of the backer sheet. And then it says the sentiment and what it means. Now, again, not a native English speaker, or I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but I looked them up on Translate. It's I feel pretty confident about that these are what these mean. Like, these are what the sentiments mean. If I made a mistake, please let me know. I want to fix it because, again, I'm really just trying to help people to donate their cards because so many people say they really like that and they find it really rewarding. Anyway, the one thing I did want to point out, there are 2 sentiments that mean congratulations. If you're donating cards to kids, you're probably not going to need either one of these. But Felicidades, I said that probably terribly, excuse me, but is, as far as I can tell, more related to like birthdays and recurring events, and is more popular in general, especially in Central and Latin American countries. And so I put a little note about how it's more popular in Latin American countries. And then there's this other one, Enhorabuena, which is more popular in Spain, but is also more used for like occasions such as like a promotion, like when you do something or you graduate, like you've done work and you made an accomplishment, that kind of congratulations. So again, not an expert, but just wanted, I hoped that being able to print these off would encourage you to take the leap and do more Spanish cards for those organizations who need it. And you don't have to buy the stamp set, of course. I will have links to the products I used always, and I appreciate when you support my channel by following my affiliate links, but you could also just use these sentiments because, again, you would know what they mean and, you know, print them out, for example, and die cut them that way instead of having a stamp set. But this is a pretty cool stamp set, and again, they have it in French as well. So I've placed it down, and I'm going to pick a sentiment that fits well inside, and I love that you could just hold the die over it. I think I'm going to pick this one. It means like many hugs. I think that would be cute. I know this is kind of like a wintry thing, so they do have Feliz Navidad, which is Merry Christmas, and Feliz Fiestas, which is Happy Holidays, but I want to make a non-holiday card with these slightly holiday-ish products in terms of, I guess this is a holiday-ish stamp set, and this snowflake paper. But I take my die cut and I put it in this template. I've talked about this template several times. There's a whole video on how I save time with sentiments by doing things like making this template. This is just tape, so it's sticky there, and it holds my sentiment in as I stamp it. I have Memento Paris Dusk. This is a deep, almost navy blue, but it's a little bit brighter, and I thought it went well with the colors that I chose. His cup was colored with B39 and B37, and then his face and feet I colored with E000 and E00. So that's how I finished him off. I didn't show all of it just because, you know, you don't need to be here all day. Ooh, new stamps. Did not stamp perfectly. I probably put too much pressure too. I definitely can be guilty of that. I like that these pressure tools though add a nice even pressure. I have mine from Twiddler's Nook, who is a crafter. And she's like her own Etsy shop, but there are many pressure tools out there. Okay, got my sentiment. I can pull it up out of there and finish off this card. I would probably want to pop everything up because why not? And so I'll put a little bit of fake foam tape behind both the sentiment and the image, and then that'll be it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, especially one-sheet wonders or ways to effectively use your supplies, you know, with like little scrap and just really encouraging to get in there and get crafting. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll leave you links to all the products that I mentioned in the video description below, as well as to 2 videos at the end where you can get some more inspiration, or you can come find me on Instagram, Pinterest. I share different stuff on Instagram sometimes. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye!